Okay, YouTube, this is Acid Roots. So I wanted to talk about Redman's 2010 album, Reggie. This is kind of a concept album, and it has the idea behind it that it's different from, previous Redman albums up to that point. It kind of seemed like he was using an alter ego, which is Reggie Noble, and I wanted to see. I'd figure out this would be a perfect entry into the Redman music, just to kind of see what he's about. Now, obviously, I almost tried his 2007 album, and I also thought about trying a couple of his Blackout albums with Method Man, but I figured that this would be simple enough. I mean, it's recent enough. 2010 had pretty, live music that had a particular, theme to it as far as, just not sounding too dated or too introverted or too calm or, just plain, something like that, one of the things. So, and, from the taste that I got from this album, it actually works as quite, it's a pretty shocking album just because of the electricity that I felt with it. It's not one of those albums that just has one club song and everything else sounds like they're just kind of sitting around the house. And it also doesn't try to just be, overly simple, just focusing completely on, just one theme the whole way through. And if you listen to the lyrics and it does have the theme, it at least has the variety within the album to uh, kind of not. It just is not one same like productive style. So yeah, so I mean, obviously, I've been wanting to kind of mess with the Method Man albums, and he has a pretty good chemistry with Method Man, so I'm interested in trying some of that out in the future. But obviously, the one song that we hear the two of them on, which is "Light One with Your Boy," obviously it's within the How High theme of kind of smoking it up, which I don't have too terrible a problem with. It's a little bit mellow, from what I've seen. I was expecting more of a more dazed, really kind of hazy type beat, but it just is more cloudy more so than hazy. It almost feels like, uh, I would say across that theme, it's more upbeat of a it's more upbeat of like a smoking song than what you might think. So that works out, and I'm going to talk about the two singles off this album, which are Def Jammable and then Rockin' with the Best. Now, both of these singles work extremely well. I think, as an introduction, sometimes people's first impressions of somebody is what the true meat of what the situation lies in. I wasn't grading Redman too heavily on that, but I did actually like both of these songs. I mean, I felt like Def Jammable, that works as a good first single for the project. It's a real sparkly song. It just sounds like something, it really sounds like some sort of something that if ICP were to get on like some sort of, more club oriented music, that'd be what it's like. It just has like a real carnival type. I don't know. It just feels kind of. I mean, Redman comes off as kind of like a Joker almost. So this kind of feels like, a tricky type situation, which I liked. And then Rockin' with the Best has like a kind of slinky, kind of offbeat club sounding song. Both of these kind of work just because he didn't switch the theme and go from, talking, oh, I'm going out on a Friday night to, I'm at home on a Sunday morning or something like that, with the standard club songs or second singles, being something more personal or something like that. He just kind of gave you what you wanted and assumed that you're just going to purchase the album for the rest of what it is, which, is not too horrible. So there's songs like there's more kind of relaxed songs on there like Let Me Get To and All I Do with Faith Evans, but I'm also appreciative of the fact that it comes off as Redman knows how to have a good time. Now, obviously, I talked about the Method Man song with Bun B also, but there's a good series of songs. The first three songs that you hear, That's Where I Be, Def Jamble, and Full Nelson, all sound pretty sharp. I mean, that's the thing to it. And for me to really get used to Redman as a lyricist, I like where he's going with the things he says. It's not, I mean, he isn't trying to be too hard to be lyrical, but the things he says are kind of, uh, they're, it's not the typical thing that you might expect someone to say. It's difficult to describe, but he's kind of a lyricist that uses, more or less formulaic wordplay. So he's kind of a lyricist that uses less formulaic wordplay, which I do like the idea behind that. But, obviously this is the album for me that I'd probably have to get to know him with. And I'm liking the idea behind actually doing that. So, the guests on here, there's a couple like that Socrates dude that pops up a couple times. And, I do like the idea behind it just because, it kind of adds to the variety of the project, makes it more of an experience more so than just a trip or something like that. And yeah, so that's some good stuff. So the two singles, it's a brief album, but the thing about it is, I know it has the replay value just because it kind of just listening to Redman, he's an interesting character. So I get the idea behind it that he can carry an album. He's been in the game since the early 90s, so I figured he'd be able to do it. And so I guess I'll tell you guys about the 6 or 7 songs that I felt were probably some of the highlights. So obviously, That's Where I Be, Def Jamable, the first single, and Full Nelson. Then there's Let Me Get To, which is the Almost song, a song I was kind of on the fence about, like maybe you should check out, maybe it'll grow on you. Then there's Rockin' with the Best, Light One with Your Boy with Method Man and Bun B, and then the surprise hit song Tiger Style Crane. Now, when they talked about this song, I read some of the reviews on this, professional reviews, and they said that this is kind of Redman back in his old ways, his East Coast hardcore style that he did. And if that's the truth, if this is the kind of Redman that, you typically see on his albums as far as the music he's done in the past, I like what I had heard. I mean, it was a live song. It kind of had some extra just upbeat and kind of, shocking feel to it that I was appreciative of. I figured that the lyrics were going to be, obviously this was a song by himself, so he can do it, but I mean, these were the kind of songs I would have liked to have had at least another song like this. I would have figured that probably would have worked out pretty highly in, the album's favor. And I think it probably should have been the third single. But it just makes me wonder if he did that purposefully just to keep from, going back in the direction that he was in. But Eric Sermon, who's produced with Redman quite a bit, is not on this project. But, I don't really know East Coast producers too well, but I think Eric Sermon's been in the game for a little while, so they probably have a good handful of songs that, they've done together that work. But I'm kind of half and half with trying to figure out how I feel about this project entirely, or at least, the stuff that they would have done, just because, East Coast production can sometimes be some of the lamest and, starkest and, just uneventful production that you've heard. But then of course the lyrics are, off the meter, so you just have to kind of watch for that. But Redman, I'm hoping, doesn't fall into that trap. So this is kind of, despite the fact that I'm reviewing this Reggie album, it's also kind of like a review of just what the preemptive things that I'm going to think of Redman in general. But this is the different album, so that's kind of the thing. So obviously I'm going to have to do Blackout and a few of these other ones. But from what I got from it, I would say I was really impressed with the singles. I'm glad that Redman, the songs that he's going to be known for off this album, actually worked pretty damn well. And he had other songs on there to actually back it up. Now, obviously, if, every single time out of, how many times out of 10 am I going to listen to some of these other songs? I would definitely say Full Nelson or Def Jamable, Rockin' with the Best, and Tiger Style Crane. It'd be pretty common for me to get these in like, a random rotation that I heard it, but that's just kind of the main thing. So I'm gonna give this album a 6.5. Me liking 7 songs out of 12, it worked pretty favorable. But I at least like the songs. I just don't know, maybe 3 or 4 months after I bought the album, how common I would actually be listening to some of these. Because once as you get like massive amounts of music, it kind of starts to, there's just songs that you listen to less, and I wouldn't want this to kind of fall into like the backswing of things. But that's just kind of the main thing. So that's about the only other way I would really grade it, is just whether or not that would happen. I just feel like, maybe it'd kind of get pushed to the side by some of the more powerful songs and musicians, but for what it is, it works. It's solid fun. It's a fond experience, I would say that. So 6.5 is better than many things I've scored lately. So yeah, I'd give it, and probably the social score I'd give like a 6 also, just because for what it was. Redman, you know him from his partnership with Method Man and the movies that he's done and the comedy style that he has. You shouldn't have a problem trying to get to know Redman. It should be simple enough to kind of find him. It just depends upon, the only problem I really have with him is just him not having definitive songs. That's the only thing. It just feels he's kind of like Wu-Tang, where you have to be hardcore fans to like him as much. But so yeah, 6.5 out of 10, 6 social.